Hi, my name's Clint Kimmins, big wave surfer and current professional Ironman triathlete. You're listening to the Physical Performance Show.
And the winner is...
Failure is not an option.
I've had my ups and my downs.
Phelps with 10 meters left. 3 minutes too good. The crowd roaring. 3 minutes down.
I think it's an absolutely breakthrough experience.
Welcome to the Physical Performance Show, the show designed to inspire the pursuit of your physical best performance. I'm your host, Brad Beer. Listen in as we delve into how the world's top physical performers achieve their success, as well as the highs, the lows, and the journey of getting there. Let's get ready, set, let's go. Welcome to another episode of the Physical Performance Show, brought to you by Physio Creme and Pogo Physio. I'm Brad Beer, physiotherapist by training and trade and founder of Pogo Physio. The aim of this show is to inspire you towards your own pursuit of your physical best. We do this through sharing the highs, the lows, and the learnings of our featured guests. And on today's episode, I'll bring you a conversation that is unlike really any other that I've brought to you over the last 123 episodes. Today's conversation is with Clint Kimmins, and boy do we cover some territory. By way of bio, Clint Kimmins went from being a childhood surfing professional prodigy to prison inmate, now morphing over to become a professional long course triathlete and also a hungry big wave charging surfer, doggedly pursuing the world's big wave surfing tour. In this chat, you're going to hear Clint share around the highs, the lows, and the learnings of his sporting career and pursuits to date. Clint takes us back to the early highs of his junior professional surfing career, where he was touted as one of Australia's hottest up-and-coming talents, travelling the world through his late teens and also into his early 20s. And then the crossroad. Clint shares very vividly around how he found himself sentenced to 18 months in prison with a minimum time of 6 months for an unlawful wounding incident which he was convicted of before the courts. Clint takes us through his time behind bars and how coming out on the other side has shaped him into the man he is today. And boy is Clint on a mission. He now competes competitively in long course triathlon around the world, with his ultimate goal being to compete in the professional category. The world's top 50 athletes get a start in the Hawaii Ironman Professional Ranks of the World Triathlon Championships in Kona, Hawaii. In tandem with that, Clint knows he has the talent to compete on the World Big Wave World Tour. And he'll share today around the process of being selected to compete on that tour. He also shares around the goal he has, and that is to become the World Big Wave Surfing Champion and the belief that underpins that. This is a fascinating conversation with a fascinating, remarkable athlete and human. You're going to really enjoy Clint Kimmins, so let's jump in and hear from him now. So this is an absolute treat to have Clint Kimmins, or Clipper as you're affectionately known, in person here for an episode. We've been trying to schedule this, I think, for probably almost 2 years.
Since you started, mate, I think we've been trying to get it going, but I'm here now and looking forward to having a chat.
So Clint, so much we could talk about, and we're going to try and endeavour to touch on most of it. But let's start with something a little bit fun. What's one thing that Clint Kimmins is learning at the moment?
Learning time management at the moment. Working a pretty full-on job up in Brisbane, and I live here on the Gold Coast, so just trying to figure out my life, what I can and can't handle in the ways of training and just time management in general.
So you mentioned full life at the moment. What does life look like for Clint Kimmins right now?
Man, there's a lot of very early mornings. My alarm's going off at 2:30, 5 days a week at the moment. Weekends are full of training. And then you got to try fit in life, shopping, cooking, things around that. So at the moment, mate, it's just full gas and just trying to figure out what I can and can't fit into my lifestyle and do the things that I want to do.
So 2:30 a.m. and I've seen some stories, Instagram stories, where you're at the gym at maybe 3 o'clock and pushing out a good treadmill session. So you're trying to train and then go to work and then train on the other side?
Yeah, well, at the moment, I'm just trying to figure it all out because sometimes I'll drive home. Like, obviously, if I get home in the reasonable hour, 4 p.m., you've got an hour and a half, 2 hours of sometimes light. But driving home from Brisbane after a full day of labouring on a job site, I just feel like I'm out there going through the motions training. You know, I might get in an hour's run, but I'm just somewhat flogging a dead horse. So really trying to experiment with what I can do in terms of quality with my sessions. So I figure if I'm well prepared in the afternoons, you know, I've cooked my meal, I've packed my lunch for the next day, get up early, you know, coffee, drive up there and knock out the session before going to work. I figure it's a little easier to work fatigued than it is to train, or especially hit a hard session anyway. So yeah, mate, just those early mornings, they're brutal.
And so, Clint, in terms of your current focuses, I mean, as per the bio, former pro junior surfer, racing professionally in long course triathlon, and also with the ambitions for the world big wave, you know, the surfing tour. Yeah. What's the main focuses at the moment? How are you separating yourself across those? How does that look for Clint Kimmins?
It's honestly really hard, and I myself am totally confused about it. My goals are very clear in my head of what I want to do and what I want to achieve, but getting to do those things is, in terms of like funding and whatnot, it's really, really hard. I do want to qualify for the Big Wave World Tour, as well as I want to make Kona as a professional too. So I've still got very big and clear goals and intentions for triathlon, but juggling all of that without sponsors and having to work 5 days a week, it's really, really hard. And, you know, I'm fit at the moment, but I'm not race fit. So I'm trying to just juggle life and train enough so that if something were to come up, I could pull the trigger and hopefully get in a really solid 6-week block and get some solid racing done. But at the moment, my life's all over the place. It's crazy. You know, work is just a 100% must for me at the moment. A couple of years I spent overseas wasn't cheap. So yeah, there's credit cards to pay off, things like that, and it's pretty tough, to be honest. And I don't want to sit here and whinge and say I'm broke and poor me, because, you know, there's people out there with 4 kids that are working 6 or 7 days a week, and, you know, I sympathise with them. But for me at the moment, it's pretty tough.
You know, you use the word, Clint, confused. You know, your goals are clear: qualify for Kona to race professionally in, you know, the World Ironman Triathlon Championships, and qualify for the World Big Wave Surfing Tour.
Yep.
So they're clear, but you said you use the words, you feel totally confused. Do you feel confused around how you're going to achieve those concurrently, or is it not so much that, it's more how do you support yourself, fit work in? You know, the training's probably pretty straightforward for you.
Yeah, well, I think you're right on both sides of things, actually, because being able to fund the dreams, you have to work without sponsors, and I literally don't have a single sponsor. I'm not getting a cent off anybody. I'm getting some help with my equipment, and that's about it. But I feel like and I hope this doesn't come across egotistically, I feel like I can qualify for Kona as a professional, which, for those that don't know, puts you in the top 50 athletes on the Ironman circuit, the Kona points rankings to compete at Kona. I think it's 52 or something like that. And to qualify for the Big Wave World Tour, you need to be, I think, in the top maybe 8 or 12 best big wave surfers in the world, and the qualification process is a little funky with that. You need to be voted by your peers and a panel of guys I don't even know who they are to be one of the outstanding performers of the big wave season. And to do that, you need to be at every single swell, you need to charge, you need to provide really cool content. That content needs to go out to all the media channels, you know, the surf line, all the online stuff, the hard print media. And without a sponsor pretty much pushing you and funding, not only funding it, but pumping you up in advertising and just putting your name out there, it's really, really tough. So I'm confused as in, am I kidding myself? Do I have this dream at the back of my head that I'm just chasing? Or is it real? And I don't really have a mentor in my life, but the people that I were going to ask and the people I look up to for a bit of mentoring advice, you know, they're pretty cool and they keep blowing smoke up my bum in senses of, man, you got to go for it, you know. I just saw you at Mavericks or in Hawaii and it was awesome. And then I saw your power for that ride, or we trained, and, you know, so I've got all these carrots dangling in front of me that I keep chasing, and I just believe in myself, to be honest. Like, I believe I can achieve those goals. But trying to train for those things, I'm not paying my bills. So do I go into a financial hole, or do I, you know, when do you stop chasing the so-called dream? And I'm just not satisfied with sport. I think, you know, these goals I've set are very realistic, and I think I can achieve them, and there's a part of me that won't stop until I do. And I know, you know, people in my bank might be listening going, you're an idiot, you're 20 grand in the red, stop all now. Like, but I'm obsessed. I am.
I'd say one of your greatest challenges from an outside looking in, it's easy for people to make calls on other people's lives, so excuse the outside looking in, but you're just blessed with so many talents, and that, I always say, there's a blessing and burden for every
it's a huge burden.
gift, and the burden is that you know that you can compete at the best level across two separate, you know, sports pursuits, and even big wave surfing. You know, inherently you must feel like you've got what it takes, but you've got to play the game to get there.
Exactly. I think the surfing one is a lot easier than triathlon because, well, the reason I got into triathlon is because I love the work ethic. I love the hard work. If you're not putting in the time, you're wasting your time. If you're not doing the key sessions, getting the sleep, the diet, the nutrition, all that sort of thing, you're wasting your time. But in surfing, you can kind of cheat it. Big wave surfers, there are guys who totally rip when it's small, but you're pretty much going dead straight on a big chunk of water. It doesn't take a whole lot of ability. It takes a lot of determination, as in you need to charge these big waves because it is very scary. You need sponsors backing. You need to be there to start with. And a lot of the times you might travel across the other side of the world and the swell's not there. So you've blown your whole budget for the big swell, and as you're on the plane over there, the swell's dissipated and gone away. So you need a good chunk of money to be there. But triathlon, you need that. You know, you just need to keep turning up and just busting down the door and going and going. And I think I hope the little dynamic that I've created for myself, if you train full-time for triathlon and you're training, you're fit, you're motivated, you're in peak physical condition, you can just quickly jump into surfing and go to Hawaii for 4 days and totally kill it because you're fit, you're strong. I'm fortunate enough to have a good competitive background, so I know what I'm doing when it comes time to put a jersey on in a heat circumstance. So I think you can kind of trick the game a little bit. And the big wave guys, they all talk it up. They try and keep it this elite group that you can't bust in. You've got to be a waterman, you've got to be this, you've got to be that. And to a certain extent it's true, but it also isn't. You know, they're trying to protect their own little bubble. And I get it, but, you know, I want to get back in. And they're not making it easy.
You're going to burst that bubble.
Exactly.
I was surprised in researching for this today to read the process of getting on the big wave tour, which is you had to be nominated, you know, through a performance. And so to me, I know the big wave surfers that stand out are generally the ones that have got the shot that season or that session.
Yep.
And as you say, I guess it's a challenge to be funded to get there, to wait the window of time for the swell, to maybe miss the swell or get it, jag it.
Yeah.
It's not cheap.
It's not only that too, you need to really get photographers on side. If you just turn up and paddle out by yourself, it's really hard to get the photos off these guys, whereas if you travel with a photographer and you're paying their way, you own that content, so you can distribute it to magazines, you can put it out on your own social channels. You're really your own personal media house, and that's a huge advantage. And just turning up somewhere without your own photographers, it's really hard to try and pump yourself up. And especially, for instance, if you're out there with a Quicksilver logo on your board taking off on the same wave as I am, and you're going right, and then I'm going to take off and go left, if I were a photographer, I want to take photos of you because I can potentially off-sell those photos to all your sponsors. So there, you know, say I am going left and getting barreled and maybe you fell off on one, you're going to get the photos where I might have done something great on the left, but it may not see the light of day. And that's happened a lot in this past season. You know, I've got bombs just come to the channel like, can't wait to see those photos. Haven't seen one of them. And then another guy who has a van sticker on his board, you know, it was all over Surfline. And I was like, the guy got 2 waves. and I don't want to sound bitter and stuff, but when you're putting your life on the line and you're trying hard, and it's hard, it's not what really happened. It's like fake news in some aspects. Yeah. But with triathlon, if you win, you won. You were fitter, stronger, faster. And that's why I'm so in love with that sport, because it is so fair. It's ridiculous.
And I've heard you use the word, and I always have resonated with the sport of endurance pursuit. Mm-hmm. Any endurance pursuit or sport, triathlon has, there's pure endeavours, bar a few mishaps where you get a flat or you have mechanical on the bike. It's like running. It's just, you know, the best on the day will typically be across the line first.
Yes, exactly.
And get the kudos.
You know, you look at Jan, like they sometimes have DNFs from mechanicals and things like that, but more times than not, they're going to get the job done. If they're not winning, they're on the podium. So, I don't know, I just love the honesty and the purity of endurance sports, or just sport in general. Yeah. I'm just such a sports nut and a fan. I love it. So,
Clint, I've just got to read a little bit out here from your Instagram gallery, talking about getting to the swells. I mean, that swell that came through Cloudbreak not too long ago was, I think anyone that's ever been in the water would just, you know, sit there with their mouth open. I did go, oh my gosh. And this is your caption. Got to be honest when I say I had a dead set shocker on that big day, on the big day. Waited out the back on the rope for close to 2 hours before Ryan Hipwood and I decided we were tripping towing and should be paddling. We got impatient and just went on anything so we could get to the boat ASAP to get our paddleboard. So the next wave to be towed was Raymond Navarro's wave. And, you know, you go on with the caption. So put listeners in perspective of that day, that context, because that photo is
the wave, I'm not sure, for those people that don't surf out there, the wave that Roman Navarro got was like the wave of the year. He's going to win a lot of money for that wave. It was potentially the biggest wave ever to be ridden at Cloudbreak, which is one of the best big wave spots. That photo just went completely global, not only over surfing outlets, but mainstream media. It was on front pages throughout America. And it was the wave after my one. In saying that, it was 30 minutes after the wave I had, but the waves were really inconsistent at that time. Hippo and I hadn't had a wave all day, because there's a lot of I don't know, there's a lot of tricks to big wave surfing. Hippo and I, no fault of anyone else's but our own, didn't have a tow board on that swell, and it was a tow day. It was gigantic. The biggest, best waves had to be towed with a jet ski and a specific tow board. And McClure got a really big wave, McClure Rothman, and copped a really heavy wipeout, and he was done for the day. You know, I think he nearly drowned, got a 2-wave hold down, just a bad situation. And then he threw me his board. Hippo and I zoomed out there on the jet ski, you know, all pumped up and waiting and let's go. And the ocean went somewhat flat. So you can imagine watching 20-foot waves peel down, you know, the reef all day. You've trained, you've psyched yourself up. For me, just getting there alone was a complete mission. I was broke. I had someone help me out to get some money to get over there. So I was like, all right, this is it. Let's go. And the ocean goes flat. So you've got to control your emotions, take it easy. And then Hippo was kind of freaking out on the ski. Like, everyone's paddling, everyone's getting bombs on the inside. Like, because on the inside of the reef, it's a little smaller, and guys were apparently paddling still into some of the biggest, best waves ever paddled into. So we're like, is it going to come up onshore? Is this the end of the swell? What do we do? So we kind of made the group decision to just catch something worthy of a tow wave, but at the same time, let's get to the boat, get our big boards, paddle out and join the paddle session. And then I got a pretty average wave. You know, the photo looks all right. It's a 15-foot perfect Cloudbreak wave, but when you risk so much and you're trying to make it your career, you're there for the Mac Daddy. You're there for the wave of waves. And that's really what I had in mind for that day. And then got out the back, Roman's one came through, and it was just an absolute monster. yeah, I recommend all the people listening to just type in Roman Navarro cloud break and you'll see what I'm talking about, or check out my Instagram for the photo or whatever. But then we scratched over it and the whole lineup started screaming, the boats, it was like a party out there. And I was just like, if I waited 30 more minutes, it's overnight success. Like I've got goosebumps. Yeah. It's, the sponsors will come knocking, the photo will go viral, you'll win big wave awards, you'll qualify for the tour because of the exposure, you're on the map, and then for me it's go time. It's big wave world title, focus. But yeah, 30 minutes away from it, and then I didn't get a run on any of the, I didn't get very good waves that day. I did have a dead set shocker. I was angry because of that. Not angry. I saw an opportunity go missing. I was stoked for Roman because he's a great surfer, a good guy, put in his time at that wave. But when an opportunity goes so close by, it's hard not to get a little bit emotional. So, yeah, pretty much as soon as I got home from that, got a job and chipping away at the debts. Whereas that 30-minute, that wave could have changed everything. So...
And until I read your caption, I wasn't really grounded in, I guess, in that massive wave stuff, the dynamics of the lineup where you will sit in pecking order and you sit and you get the next thing that comes through, and it's kind of based on that order, right?
And there's a huge pecking order, that swell in particular. That every big wave surfer, even guys who weren't big wave surfers, just came to witness it. Jamie Mitchell, my buddy, who's one of the best big wave guys in the world, he had a bunged shoulder and was recovering from surgery. He flew out there just to be in the lineup and watch it. Yeah. So that shows what a, not once in a lifetime, but maybe a once in a lifetime opportunity. And to have it come, so close, it burns a little.
Well, I mean, Kelly Slater called it maybe the best waves he would ever see in his lifetime.
Yeah, well, there you go. Enough said. What he says goes, especially at that place. So.
And so, well, I think there's a theme in your life, Clint. You just said, you saw an opportunity go missing, and let's go from there back to some of the genesis story of Clint Kimmins. Obviously, the middle chapter entails, I guess, what you'd feel like an opportunity that went missing. But let's get to that. So, flicking back, Clint, growing up, I remember when I was in my early physio career stage, the name Clint Kimmins, I was working with a couple of guys that were really quite focused on the surfing side. Used to treat a few of the pro guys, and your name was around all the time. And so that was you, obviously, in your peak pro junior years. And so take us back, what life was like growing up, how you found your way onto the board, got your confidence that way. And
yeah, I was always in the sport. I played cricket, golf at school. I was running around on my lunch break and surfing in the morning. And then I played okay footy, I think. I think I was around, making some representative teams, things like that. I was never a big guy, but I played, in the backs, and I was a fullback for Burleigh Bears junior club. I think I was an opening bowler. Sometimes I opened the batting with cricket at school and things like that. I think when I was like 13, I was like playing off 9 at handicap with golf. So I was okay at all these sports. And as you said earlier, I think it's somewhat of a burden because instead of zero focusing in on the one, I like to, dip into all of them. But surfing, I had the most fun. I started missing weekend football matches because the waves were good. Same thing with cricket, golf. I'd miss out on a tournament I was meant to travel to because all my mates were going surfing. And I didn't really think of it as a profession or something I could have done. I just knew that it was what I loved, and whenever I had any spare time, I was riding my bike down the surf. And then started competing, got some good results, and everything just pretty much snowballed really quickly from there. I think when I was about 14, 15, I was getting paid, I think, more than what the teachers were at school, which isn't probably a whole lot, but for a 14-year-old kid who, I grew up from a very humble family, and, my parents never had much money or anything like that, to be getting paid a good chunk of money from a young age, I was just like, wow, this is cool. Not only do I love it, and it's what I'd be doing if I had to pay for it, but people are going to pay me to do this. So yeah, I just went out and had fun with it, and the results came naturally. When I was in my later teens, I started going overseas and doing a lot more international travel, and then was in my early teens. I was having a bit of trouble at home. Like, my family life wasn't great. There was a lot of stuff going on that I didn't want to be at home. So a lot of my motivation to make more money, to get better results, was the more money I make, the more I can stay overseas, or the more trips I can do just to get out of my home life. So, but I've only realised that now, I think, in my later years. But looking back, I was never happy at home. I wanted to stay away. And a friend actually said that not so long ago. He said it before I got the chance to say it to him. He's like, man, you just wanted to stay away from your home life. That sucked. And you got to go to France and surf, or Hawaii and spend a couple months, and really made me think about, what was driving me at the time that maybe I wasn't so aware of. But then it just progressed onto the World Qualifying Series, which is the tier underneath the top 44 male surfers in the world. And I actually had a real shocker on the WQS. I was really fit at the time. I felt like I was surfing really well, but I wanted it too much. That might sound a bit weird, but in a sport where you need to be calm and cool and really change your game plan every other minute depending on what the ocean does, it's really not the sport to go in pumped up. I'd listen to music and I'd go out and go, let's go. And then I'd sit there for 20 minutes without a wave. And you would just blow a fuse. I was so angry. You travel to Portugal and you're like, I just had the best free surf. Personally for me, I think I'm surfing really well. And then you don't catch a wave, or you catch one wave and it closes out. And I was so angry. And I just found myself, the way that I learned to love surfing, it just felt natural. It felt the opposite, it didn't feel right. I was angry, and that's not a good place to be when you're traveling around the world at a young age and getting paid to do it. I was just unhappy. So,
do you think that unhappiness was the feeling of injustice, that you were ready to perform, you knew you could lay down a good result, but in some situations the waves just didn't come through, and is it that feeling of injustice? That's
a part of it, but at the same time, you do only have yourself to blame. So I don't want to sit here and say, if I got waves, I could have been Mick Fanning, because there's absolutely no way in the world I could have gotten to the level where he did, even if I got waves that were twice as good as his, or things like that. But I don't know. I just wasn't happy. Maybe I was angry at myself because I had I thought I could have gotten to a place and I didn't achieve it. So I started maybe this mental snowball of negativity, which meant sitting in a bad spot, which means not catching waves, because like the saying goes, you can somewhat create your own luck, right? And I believe that with a positive outlook, with a positive mind, you can just create positive vibes and waves will come to you. And I just didn't have that at the time. I was angry, and it's just not that surfing's not the place to have that tense negative energy. And it might sound kind of hippie and surfy dude, but you need to be in touch and in flow and rhythm with the ocean. And at the time I didn't have that.
How many years did you persist on the World WQS for?
Don't know the exact number, maybe 3 or 4, 5 years maybe dabbling, but...
And you got your ranking to what after those? What was the peak?
My best ranking before coming into Hawaii, which is the last 2 major events of the year and the ones with the most points, I was in the 50s possibly, which is not really good. Like, it's borderline striking distance for qualifications, but that was when some things happened that I wasn't able to travel back into the United States. So that was a really, really hard one for me as well.
And we'll talk about those things. You don't have to answer, but what was going on at home back in the, you said that home wasn't a great place to be. Was it just, family unrest?
Yeah, that was more in my teens. I think I moved out of home from a really young age. I think I moved out for a stint when I was like 11 or something, and then I moved out of home again when I was like 14 or 15. But I'd say that I've probably been by myself and supporting myself since I was about 14 or 15. So, but then again, I've got a lot of friends who act as father figures and big brothers, and my friends' families would adopt me somewhat of their own, and a girlfriend at my time, her family really took me on board as one of their own. So that's why I hold my friendships and, well, relationships in general very close to my heart, because I didn't have that family thing really going on. And in saying that, I love my parents. My parents are, you know, nice people, whatever, but I just didn't have that normal family. Well, there's no such thing as a normal family life, as everyone knows. But yeah, I just didn't. Yeah, it was weird, in all honesty.
Were you brothers or sisters?
Older sister, 2 years older. And I kind of feel for her too, because when I got to travel overseas, you know, you're in the magazines, your brother's getting paid X amount of dollars to go and travel the world. She was stuck at home dealing with this stuff. So I've got a real soft spot for her. Through growing up, being a girl, you know, must be hard enough just going through high school, let alone having a brother who's never home, getting paid good money. I'm not sure if jealousy is the right word, but there must have been some, you know, I wish I was away doing what Clint does, and then I came home and maybe we wouldn't get along. But yeah, it was weird, and I'm only as an adult now trying to really figure out how much that has affected me now in sport, in life, with relationships and everything. So
You're listening to Clint Kimmins, professional long course triathlete and also big wave surfer, sharing around the highs, the lows, and the learnings of his sporting career to date. Support for today's show comes from PhysioCreme. PhysioCreme is a topical massage cream containing natural plant-based ingredients, ideal for the temporary relief of muscular aches and pains. If you're conscious of what you put on your body, you'll be happy to know that PhysioCreme does not contain parabens or hydroxybenzoates. It is clean to use and pleasant smelling, with the smell fading away in minutes. Its non-greasy formula doesn't leave any sticky residue behind either. PhysioCreme can be found at chemists and health stores Australia-wide, as well as online. They're offering listeners of the Physical Performance Show a 20% discount off any PhysioCreme product simply by jumping over to their website, FISIOCREM.com.au, and entering the promo code POGO, all in capitals. Hurting sucks and PhysioCreme have you back. Stay tuned as well to the end of this episode, where you can hear how you can go into the draw to win a great PhysioCreme prize pack. Support for today's show also comes from Pogo Physio. We exist to help you get back to your physical best following injury. We want everyone who walks through the doors of Pogo Physio to complete their rehabilitation, get back to their physical best, and in doing so, cross their physio finish line. In addition to traditional session-to-session, pay-as-you-go appointments, Pogo Physio have engineered some industry-first, award-winning rehabilitation options, including 2, 6, and 12-week fixed-fee, unlimited access finish line programs, and our very popular monthly wellness booster packages, all designed to help you save money and recover faster. To find out more, jump over to pogophysio.com.au. For now, let's jump back to Clint Clipper Kimmins, sharing around the highs, the lows, and the learnings of his sporting career to date. And Clint, with the surfing, back then, was there a, you know, you've obviously matured, as we all do in life, with your mindset, your approach to things, you reflect and you learn and change. But back then, was it just pure talent and passion that was driving up until you started to hit the, you know, the plateau, if you like, with the WQS attempt? But was there any concerted training that you were doing back then?
No.
Pure
back
talent?
Then, just
Time
love,
in the
and I think I was lucky. I don't know how to explain it. It's all I wanted to do, and I wouldn't stop. Like, I would ride my bike, you know, down to D-Bar from Palm Beach when I was really young, and then ride back and get to school before 8. But yeah, I never trained, or I was actually really bad at group training sessions. Like the Gold Coast or Queensland team would have a training session, and I'd just goof around. I hated it. I just wanted to go out and do my own thing, and maybe it was a form of showing off or self-expression because I wasn't getting love at home. I don't know, but maybe that's true. You know, you can laugh about it, but I was the show-off kid, and a way of me showing off was by surfing. Like, essentially, that's what you're doing. You're showing off. with a jersey on and getting judged. And if you're good enough at showing off, you're gonna succeed. So maybe I was just that kid, and I was lucky enough to grow up around the beach where I had something healthy that I could do, whether it was, if I was living out west or somewhere in a bad neighbourhood, spray painting a wall or breaking into a house or a car could have been that form of showing off. So in that aspect, I'm very fortunate to grow up on the Gold Coast.
And on that, I mean, an absolute hub for surfing talent. You were part of around some, your peers like Mick Fanning and Joel Parkinson and the like. Who were your surfing influences and inspirations back then as a junior?
Obviously, the guys I was hanging out with, and like Joel, Parkinson, Mick, Dean Morrison, Damon Harvey, a lot of the coolie guys, a lot of the older guys as well, like Ockie all the time, Brendan Margison, just anyone pretty much who was a professional surfer. I'd just, wow, these guys. I remember I'd go down and watch the Billabong Pro, or it's now the Quicksilver Pro, down at Kirra, and I'd just ask guys if I could carry their boards. I'd hang out near their cars because they'd all have 4 or 5 boards or whatever, and could I carry your board? And I was just like, wow, these guys are cool. So.
And through your junior years, before we go to the next chapter, did you score some magazine covers back then? I was really fortunate actually. I was at one stage, I think, the most publicised Australian surfer at the time. Kobe Abbott and myself were 2 guys that would battle for all the media. A bunch of covers on, Australian mags, international mags, things like that. But now that I don't have a sponsor and it's hard for me to get media, I look back and it's because of all of those photos that I got were on paid trips by sponsors. Ripco was sending me all around the world with 5 angles of every wave I got, and good photos come of that. So that's why I really understand why I'm having a hard time now with the media. It's like I've been there, I've been the guy, I've been the flavour of the month that, you bend over backwards and someone gets a photo and you're on the cover. I had a photo laying on the beach, was on a front cover, and people just blew up. He's flavour of the month, he's not even surfing. Although I think I did a good job in Hawaii at the time, but I was laying on the beach, and it's still spoken about today. That, So how did that first cover feel when you went down to the old news agency in the day? And
it was the best feeling on earth. I was actually flew home from Hawaii, I think early January. Got to Narrabeen for a massive pro junior event, and I didn't know the cover was coming out. And then someone went, "Hey mate, have you seen this?" and threw me the magazine, and I was just in total shock and awe because I was such a fan as a grommet. Like, I would religiously run down and buy every single magazine, and to be on the front of one, I couldn't stop looking at it. I was just like, I'd wake up, I remember I was staying at Nathan Hedges' house, and I would wake up in the middle of the night, walk over and turn the light on because I thought it was a dream.
What was the magazine?
Australian Surfing Life, ASL. And it was a off-the-wall wave, pulling into a closeout with my arms wide, and looking back, I was just this skinny little runt, but, you could see the stoke on my face. And
there's that, that validation, that approval that I guess you were longing for.
Yeah, I guess, and it's...
In some sense.
It was just weird seeing...
The attention.
Yeah, the attention, and just my face and my name on a cover of something. I'm just like, whoa, I'm not worthy somewhat. And I guess when you feel something like that, you want to chase it. And I love doing photo trips, not only competing, but going and just pulling into big waves and trying to get the best photos, because that cover felt good. That's a competition in its own right. Is who can get the cover.
Yeah, and it's a timeless, mantelpiece item that any professional athlete would cherish. Thanks for setting the scene. Obviously, shedding light on the background, and I think it gives anyone listening, the listeners, that perspective of where you were in terms of the world order of surfing and your talent, your clear talent. And then things, I guess you'd maybe refer to like the messy middle years. Things took a turn, and you got caught up in something that took you completely by surprise. Mm-hmm. So I know you've shared it in the public domain recently, and I think it's important if we can
absolutely
get a little bit of this story, Clint. So you're at a party. You're 21-year-old.
Yeah, I think it was Troy Hipwood, Ryan Hipwood, my buddy's 21st birthday party. So I think I would have been 20 at the time. Just came back from a trip overseas. I think I was in Morocco. And got back, went to a party. It was a family party, grandmas, kids on the dance floor, that sort of thing. And then I'm trying to make the story, because this story could go for 2 hours because it's still pretty vivid in my head, but a bunch of guys turned up to the party, started, acting like hooligans, whatever, wearing singlets and, kicking holes in the wall, that sort of thing. And, pinched someone on the bum, like one of the grandmas on the bum a little too hard. And we were all there having a good time. And a few of the lads said pretty much, what do you think you guys are doing? You can stay and hang out and have a good time, but, pull your heads in, so to speak. And then a fight broke out on the dance floor. I was one of the guys in the fight. Somehow won the fight against one of the bigger guys there. The security guards came, kicked those guys out, party went on, and then for I think it was like 2 or 3 hours or something went by, and then Ryan and Troy Hipwood's dad hired a bus for us to either go home or go out to surface. They were doing drop-offs along the way, and as we all walked down the stairs to leave the party, all those guys were down there, and some, so they've either left to get mates, whatever. I walked down the stairs, clock straight in the head, and all of a sudden I was seeing stars on the ground, and I just remember these dull thuds just coming into my head, and I was just like, this is not a good situation. I've been jumped and, seeing stars, and just that, I can still taste it, like it was like a metal taste in my mouth of just, I don't know, getting belted in the head. And then I looked over, saw a broken bottle, picked it up, pretty much closed my eyes and just started swinging it as hard as I could. And then it was like slow motion. I just saw one of the guys' necks open up, and apologies to those listening. He's pretty brutal, but I got the guy I think a couple of times in the neck, and then there was also a wound in his back. Nothing happened for a couple of years. Like, the party got split up straight away. They ran in one direction. Everyone freaked out, including myself. They all went in one direction. I went in another. The next day, the waves were absolutely pumping. I wasn't drinking much that night because the waves were so good. Going to be so good the next day. And I remember being out at a reef break down the coast, and I couldn't get off the jet ski. I felt so sick to my stomach about the events that had unfolded that night. Like, I don't condone fighting. I've never been the guy to look for trouble. And all of a sudden, I put a bottle into someone's neck and hurt someone, and I felt crook. About 2 years went on, heard nothing from it, nothing at all. I spoke to the guy on the phone the next day. He signed himself out of hospital. He apologised for starting the fight, jumping me down the bottom, causing a ruckus, and he's like, that got out of control. How are you? I said, I'm okay. I'm glad that you're okay and you're going to be out of hospital. And that was it. I thought, well, he's going to be okay, and it was horrible, but hopefully we can move on and maybe one day meet and say, just sort it out on a friendship level. And then for those 2 years, I was getting death threats. All of his buddies were like, legitimate death threats. I was petrified. But again, I was lucky because I was traveling so much within that time going away. And then, close to 2 years later, the police wanted to charge me with unlawful wounding. And I was like, what? 2 years later? Like, what do you mean? And then ended up getting charged. The detective was actually a really cool guy. Can't remember his name, but look, sorry, mate, but we're going to have to charge you with unlawful wounding. And I was like, okay, I guess we've got to go through the motions. I'll figure it out, because I knew what happened. I was defending myself. I didn't just, pull out something and go waving it around at a random person. And then obviously hired a law firm, came on board, and they're like, look, we'll take care of it. You go away, keep doing your thing. We've got it covered. Pleaded not guilty to the unlawful wounding. Obviously admitted to everything that I just said. But did I unlawfully wound someone? No. Did I defend myself and those actions took place? 100%. And then it went to trial. 6 weeks before trial, my lawyer said, we don't think you're going to win this case. He was just a guy who came back after some time off from practicing law or whatnot and said, look, we have to drop you from this case. So my girlfriend's father at the time said, we need to get you really good representation because it's 6 weeks out from going to trial because you've pleaded not guilty. So they went and saw Bill Potts, law firm, and barristers, like the whole 9 yards, which essentially took all of my savings and a lot more. You know, I had to borrow a lot of money off my girlfriend at the time's father to pay for all the court costs. And then straight away, I remember the first meeting with Bill. He's like, this is ridiculous. This isn't even a case. This should have been thrown out. This should not be seeing the light of day. And then, trying to compress the long story short, after a 3-week trial, sitting in the docks, having a police prosecutor make me out like I was a murderer, ended up getting off the unlawful wounding because they found that they asked for what was a special verdict. The wounds in the neck and the shoulder were in self-defense, but there was a nick on his back which I don't know how it got there. Maybe we were rolling around the ground, maybe it was there before, maybe it wasn't. I have no clue. They can't justify a mark in someone's back as self-defense because therefore they have to have a back turn. So I think the judge's words were, within a 10-second fight, you've crossed an imaginary line from lawfully defending yourself to unlawfully hurting somebody. And so I was only... When they made their judgment, it was only on the wound in the back, and that judgment came down after deliberation over half a day and whatnot, was guilty for the wound in the back. So I was like, well, what does this mean? And then we went away for there was a recess or something, and then they came back and I was sentenced to, I still remember, he's sentenced to 2 years imprisonment, suspended after 6 months for a term, 18 months imprisonment, suspended after 6 months for a term of 2 years. So I think there was a good behaviour bond after the 6 months of being released, that if I did anything, cross the road, whatnot, I would be in strife. But yeah, hands behind the back, taken out of the dock into a room, and 6 months in jail. And it wasn't just a farm, it was high security, the full, lock-up jail.
You're 20...
Height of my career, everything going great. And sent to jail. So that was a hard one to swallow.
And for all that time, you'd been with the first lawyers on the case up until 6 weeks before trial. You'd been comforted by the advice that this is not going to really go too far. It's probably not going to... They
weren't saying it's nothing, because obviously something like that is something serious. But the guy I was in the fight with didn't press charges. It was the police versus me, because I guess if someone goes to hospital and there's a wound in their neck, they have to start asking questions, right? Which I 100% I get it. But, it's a hard one, because the guy who I was in the fight with recently, as of yesterday, just got found. He was actually in jail for, I think, the last 8 to 10, 12 years maybe. And then he just got done with 600 kilograms of cocaine. And the whole time that my case was going on, I knew he was dealing drugs and wasn't a really good guy. But I never spoke up. I didn't say anything because I didn't think it would affect my case. And I'm not one to tell on people. If he wants to do that, his life will, it's going to catch up with him. I don't want to be involved with it. I just want to get on with my thing and just, in all honesty, stay as far away from the person as possible. But yeah, he just got done for a very, very serious crime and is potentially going to spend the rest of his life in jail. And everyone's texting me saying, it's karma for lying in court, this and that. But I don't know what it is, but it's pretty full on. I just think of the people who did convict me. Maybe they should have believed me a little more than this guy who's gone into court, said the things that weren't true. And then, I lost a career. Not a life, because I'm happy where I am now. I think it's changed me for a better person. I got to experience something, even though it at the time was the worst thing that could possibly ever happen to me. I learnt so much from it, and what I gained, I think, far outweighs the 6 months' time, the 10 years not going to America, which potentially cost me my competitive surfing career, the friendships I've developed, the life experience, skills on how to talk to people, how to survive in a very heavy place. It's a pretty cool... I'm not going to say cool, that's the wrong word, but it's something I'm very proud of, is getting through those hard times and coming out the other side either the same person, if not a better person, in terms of positive outlook, motivation, health and fitness, trying to not be bitter, And, you know, don't get me wrong, there's parts of me that I'm angry inside and I am still bitter, but I'd rather take it out on the pedals or on a running track or, you know, something like that than sit around in a pub and go, oh, poor me. So, yeah, that's the story.
Well, Clint, you know, everyone, I think I mentioned this before we went to air, everyone's got a past.
Yeah.
And you know, if we played the movie of everyone's lives, everyone would have moments of like, oh, I wish that looked different. Yeah. So, you know, I think, thank you for sharing openly.
No, man,
but I must ask, you know, did you lose faith in, you know, feeling some degree of, you know, you went through the process of a courtroom and then quickly ushered out to start your term, which ended up being 6 months, and obviously was sentenced to 18. But you're in your early 20s, you're the height of a sporting career and the massive potential in front of you. What's going through your head? Two things. I mean, I guess you must have lost a bit of faith in how the world works.
100%. And that's one thing I've learnt, that it's hard to talk about because you don't want to sound bitter or come across as the world's an evil place and a conspiracy theorist or any of these sort of things, but I kind of am. And once you're in the system, it's not easy to get out. And then once I was in jail, you get treated like a prisoner. Like they take the suit off you in court and you've got your prison browns on. You're a criminal. I'm like,
instantly
right now,
in court.
Yeah, I'm a convicted criminal. And if people saw me walking down the street, there's no way they would think that. But to society, and, you know, I'm sure there's a number next to my name if I was pulled over for a random actually, that's another story. This morning I was pulled over. I'll go into that in a minute, but
go into it now.
Yeah, well, this morning I was sitting in Wurrungree. I pick a couple guys up on the way to work. I was going to ride. I'm working up in Brisbane, as I said earlier. 3 o'clock, sitting on the side of the road with the car idling with my full black lycra on, beanie on because it was freezing. Police pull up behind me and like flash the lights and do that thing, and, you know, it would have looked suspect. I was sitting in a wagon in the middle of Wurrungree at 3 a.m. with a beanie hoodie on, and then they would have ran the plates and they would have seen who it's registered to. Oh, this guy's got a past. Hello, blah blah blah. Whose bike is that in the back? Mine. It was a lady. It's my bike. What are you doing in this area? I'm getting ready to go ride in Brisbane before going to work. And she's like, what time do you start? 6 a.m. She's like, that sounds pretty hard to believe. I'm like, yeah, it's pretty weird. Like, I'm sitting in Wurrungree in full lycra with a 10 grand bike in the back, waiting to pick two guys up. They're going to go to the gym. I want to go ride my bike and then start work at 6. She was like, BS. And they ran all the checks and all that sort of thing and let me go. But that's, you know, you attract that stuff somehow, and it's scary because, you know, I spent a good part of 10 years and tens of thousands of dollars trying to get a visa to go back to the States to reignite my surfing career, to chase the big waves. And again, with those numbers or that little red mark next to your name, life is not easy, and it's still coming back up to bite me. And I still think about the time in jail and, you know, the experiences I had in there, which was scary, and it's affected me a lot more than what I thought. You know, I'm realising that now in my mature years of, you know, how much it's affected personal relationships. I think I'm paranoid. Like, you could probably attest to this, that I'm not very good with my phone. I've got this, like, I love talking in front of people eye to eye, but I'm hopeless with my phone. I've got this weird paranoia about it. But yeah, I think there's a lot of stuff deep down that's only starting to come out now from the whole jail experience.
What's coming out? What is coming out now?
That's a good, in a single word, I guess, appreciation. For my current circumstances, I said earlier, they're not great, but it's better than jail. Like, I'll sit in a traffic jam this afternoon. I remember sitting there going, this isn't that bad. This is fine. I'm not in jail. You know, it could have been a lot worse. I could have potentially hurt that guy a lot more and still been in there. You know, you can always take a positive road. I know it sounds corny, but there's always a positive outlook. Or if you make the right decisions, act logically instead of emotionally, you can find the higher road. So again, there's no excuses. We're all out there. Everyone's dealing with things in their personal life, work, family, whatever. You can always find a positive outlook, take the high road and look down on that high road and just slow down and figure out the way to get through it. And that's one thing I'm appreciative of. That without that in there, I might have just gone on a surfing path, made some good money, potentially got good results, and had a huge ego, you know, burnt out, hated surfing. Whereas now I'm really happy.
And you're hungry.
I like myself. I'm hungry, and like people, I think in this day and age need to cut themselves some slack. They've got to get a house, they've got to get a car, they've got to look like the man on social media. I think people need to take a step back and really work on self-happiness and self-evaluation and do the small things, even if it is being a little bit selfish, that make them happier on a day-to-day basis, because you're going to carry that through the rest of your life. And if you can work on yourself, everyone around you is going to be, they can feel that radiation, right? You know people who, when Tom walks through the door, he's just glowing and he's smiling and he cracks a joke, and if you're having a bad day, it will brighten up your day. I'm trying to be that person organically, without being fake, Mr. Walk in and crack jokes when someone's obviously not in a good mood. I just want to be happy, like everyone. I know it sounds broad, but I'm searching for happiness. And I think, triathlon, for one, has really brought that to me, that the jail experience, and just doing things that are honest and pure, going running early when the sun rises, riding a bike when it comes, just very basic things to happiness.
And I mean, your past has given you perspective of, in a world of, with one of your ambitions and your sporting goals being the World Ironman Professional Triathlon Championships, it's all about, some of the recent guests we've had on the Physical Performance Show, author of Endure, Alex Hutchinson, and he spent 10 years looking at the relationship of the mind and muscle,
right,
for endurance performance. And basically it's all sort of coming down to the perception of effort, and you will go as fast as you'll go as good as you can by balancing the actual effort against the perception of effort. Exactly. And you're trying to close that gap. So your learnings, your history, your tough times coming through it, you use the word a sense of pride that you survived, can only elevate your ability, give you a better perception of effort in terms of when you're putting down the hammer in a triathlon. I
wish I could spit it out like you just did then. That's perfect. And I don't think I'm a talented triathlete by any means. I've got some good results, but my pain threshold through past experience is, I think, quite high, and I'm able to push myself to places where I think other people may not be able to go through past experiences. So, if I was, had a great upbringing and was happy through all these years, maybe I'll just be content going along on that path. But I have a lot of pain, and instead of being negative or bitter, I choose to sign up for a sport where I can express that pain through myself without maybe, excuse the language, being an asshole to someone or being just a negative bloke. So, I find it very fortunate that triathlon, Ironman, and endurance in general has given me that outlet, where a lot of people may not have that. You said that you've got a lot of pain. Before we jump over to triathlon, do you experience shame about your past? No, not at all. No, it's sometimes the people that know me know that what was written in the Gold Coast Bulletin isn't Clint, or what was written in an article isn't me. I did it. I'm the first one to put my hand up. But if I walked out of this room right now and we were jumped by a group of guys, I'd do the exact same thing. I pray that would never happen to myself, anyone listening, anyone ever again. It's horrible. But what do you do when you're pushed into a corner? I think it's animalistic survival, and I did it, and it is what it is. And I could have been in a wheelchair. I could have been in a bad situation, and that's the things that I really think about, and especially my time in there I thought about. And again, I wish it never happened, but it did, so I've got to move on with it.
Yeah, and then that you are. So moving on, I've just got to say that I'm so pleased you don't feel any sense of shame. I reckon that's the ugliest word in the English dictionary, shame.
Yeah.
People want to lay shame on you. They'll say about things like, no, shame off you. Like, shame's just horrible.
Because people say to me often, oh, you've come so far from that guy back then. I'm like, no, I haven't.
I'm the same.
I was never that guy. I'm never going to be that guy. It happened, and I lost friends over it, but moving on.
You're listening to Clint Kimmins sharing around the highs, the lows, and the learnings of his sporting career. If you missed last week's episode featuring New York Times best-selling author of Endure, Mind, Body, and the Curiously Elastic Limits of Human Performance, then be sure to jump back and delve deep into this episode. It was an absolute ripper, and boy has it been popular. Here's a little snippet of what you missed.
There's this really deep connection between endurance and the perception of finish lines. There's a whole scientific literature on this too, where if you tell people that they're almost finished, or if you tell people they're going 10K but make them go 8K or make them go 12K, there's dramatic differences in how easy it feels or how hard it feels depending on where you think the finish line is.
To explore last week's episode and more from the archives, jump over to your favorite podcast player, iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, SoundCloud, wherever you get your podcasts, and download away. For now, let's jump back to Clint Kimmins on the highs, the lows, and the learnings of his sporting career to date. Clint, moving on, triathlon, got to find out about your first race. How did you even get the idea to go enter a triathlon?
I was running a lot in jail. Back into those stories. I was doing
running laps.
Yeah, I was running laps. There was a 500-meter oval around like the perimeter of a fence and a football oval that we're allowed to go into without these certain exclusion zones that were just, off limits, barbed wire, that sort of thing. Doing a lot of running in there. I came out really fit. Really lean.
What would you run, like for an hour a day? Or
it was whatever time I had.
Marathon
Sometimes it'd be 20 minutes, sometimes it would be 3 hours. I'd just run, and I had the worst shin splints in the world. I swapped a guy 2 bottles of olive oil for a pair of Puma shoes that I don't even think were running shoes, and I just ran the house down in those things. And then when they wore out, I ran in Dunlop volleys, or like a shoe equivalent to a Dunlop volley, around a hard, compact dirt, off camber. From a physio, you're probably having heart palpitations, but I just ran for the love of running, and then I got addicted to it.
But you weren't running before in any sense like that? What were the other, I guess, inmates or prison mates or whatever you call them, what were they thinking about it? Were they just going, oh, that's Clint? Yeah,
my reputation in jail was the fit guy. Like, I went in a little bit overweight, like surfer, like I went in a surfer, little beer gut and, blonde hair. And then I came out like veins in my stomach, like the full jail transformation. I was doing other things, like if I had a chance, there was a tennis court in there. Certain people were allowed to use a tennis court. I'd play tennis all day, just smash it against the wall if no one would play with me. It was west of Brisbane, so in the summertime it was stinking hot. The gym in there, I just pretty much asked people and said, do you mind if I train with you? And some big, scary people that you wouldn't normally ask. I just, they took a liking to me for, I guess, my enthusiasm to bettering myself physically. That was a good way to get through it. And the result of that was fitness and a love for endurance and, pain management, I guess.
Were you on, curious, were you on a first name basis with some of these people?
I think so, yeah, Clint, but I didn't want to have friends in there.
Yeah,
you don't want friends because a favour here, a favour there, I'm not that person. I didn't want to become friends with anyone. Yeah. I didn't ask too many questions. Hopefully they wouldn't ask too more. I tried to do my time as somewhat minimalistic as possible in terms of interaction with other people. Not my people, so to speak.
Yeah. So you're running a lot. You get out. You got shin splints, shin pain, somewhere in there.
Yep.
You clock maybe a couple 100 Ks over the 6 months, 1,000 Ks, 2,000 Ks. Who knows?
I wish, man. They're probably my biggest running weeks ever around a 500-meter track.
And then in the triathlon, what was your first race?
First race was the Kingscliff Triathlon, Olympic distance race. After the whole jail thing, I was super fit, went on the WQS. That was when I had that bad stint on the WQS. Couldn't get through a heat. So I'm like, perfect, triathlon. First over the line, put in the work, get the result, let's rumble. Came out of the swim in a pretty good position. Went to jump on my bike. I had a rear flat tyre, and it was a borrowed old bike, and the thing was as flat as a tack, and I didn't know how to change a tyre. I'd rode the thing 10 times maybe. So here I am trying to get involved in this fair sport, done the training, done the work, couldn't even complete the bike leg, couldn't even get on the bike. I was in tears, literally. My buddy Adam Weathered has a photo of me sitting in a cafe while everyone's doing the run part, and I'm just head down. I think you can see a tear running down. And so I'm like, here we go again, you know, what else can happen to me, you know? But stuck with it. So, you know, there's plenty of local races. Signed up for another race, which was the Byron Bay Triathlon, and that time made sure the bike was in A1 condition. I think I had some new tyres, some borrowed race wheels, etc., and then went out there, and I'm not sure even where I placed. You know, I think I did quite well to memory, but maybe top 10 in my age group or something. But as every triathlete out there can attest to, I could shave time off here. If only I did this, if only I did that. And that came the love and the addiction for racing and triathlon.
And so you did the Kingscliff try, the Byron Bay try.
Mm-hmm.
I always say triathlon should come with a warning label. Will cause addiction.
Yes, absolutely.
You know, that happened. And at what point did you start to realise you actually, one, you had the love and you had some passion, but two, you had a bit of talent?
I still haven't. I don't think I have talent. Again, I think I can just hurt myself. And, you know, I think one of the athletes once said, it's not who goes the fastest, it's who slows down the latest in the race. And I think I'm pretty good at holding the throttle open. But I signed up for a half, and I think maybe I got a podium or fifth or something. And I was like, I couldn't believe it, because when I did my first Ironman branded event, you've been to an Ironman yourself. There's just veins and muscles and disc wheels and carbon. And I'm like, what am I doing? This is horrible. It's dark and it's nervous and there's guys screaming. I'm like, this is stupid. I'm not even going to finish this thing. I can't race them. And I remember just going, that was that guy. That's them. And just going bang, bang, past people. I went, this is pretty cool. And that positivity kicked in, and I just kept going faster and faster and crossed the line and went, those guys still have 10K to run. That guy with big calves, wow, this is cool. So then, ran a couple marathons and signed up for an Ironman, and just was petrified of it. My buddy Luke McKenzie, who you used to race with and know very well, he was the guy I looked up to. He was the Gold Coast, Sunny Coast, Queensland kid, you know, good looking, beast on the bike, just the athlete of athletes. And I wanted to be like Luke, you know. I was this, early mid-20s groupie, you know, and Luke was a fan of surfing, so we followed each other on social media, and he would like my stuff, and I was like, yes, you know, like Kelly and stuff would talk to me on social media. I'm like, whatever. Luke McKenzie, boom, one like. So, you know, we became friends, and Luke's like, do an Ironman, and I just, okay, sure, I'll try. And then Luke actually gave me a bike and helped me out. I think I swapped him some boards or something. And before I know it, I was towing the line up at Cairns for my first ever race. And I trained the house
What
down.
year was this?
I can't remember.
13 maybe? 14?
Possibly, yeah. Something around there. But, I was super fit, trained probably more hours of the week than I probably do now as a professional. I was lifeguarding at the time, which is a very good job for training. At work, you can, on your lunch break, you can go out and train before and after. It's perfect. Had a good race and finished third, and went, wow. You know, and the winner, I think, I remember running past some pros on the run leg and just went, what's going on? Might have been, 18th overall or something. A buddy of mine had a really good race who was an age grouper. That inspired me to go faster. And then I think it was Bustleton had a really good race and finished maybe 8th overall, and just went, what's going on? This feels amazing. And because I was doing the right things, I was not only training hard, but I was sleeping, I was eating, I was drinking, doing all the right things, and that became extremely rewarding. Not only the race result, but getting to the start line, knowing that I'd done the work. To me, that was, you could put a medal around me before the gun went off. And the race was just an expression of my fitness. That was time to switch off, so to speak. Eat, drink, go through the motions, don't race out of your skin. I think I'm good at self-evaluation. I know what I'm capable of, and I know what I'm not capable of. So if for any reason, you know, Clayton Fattel or Luke or someone were to ride past me, I'm not going to go with them. It's just lunacy. So I'm really good at just being in my own space and sticking within my parameters of effort and ability. And I think Ironman's a great sport for that, because you've got a lot of time, you know, whatever hour you do the race in, 8 to 17, you've got a lot of time to be in your own head, and I'm good at being in my own head. So just kept racing pretty much, and I was on the podium of nearly every race that I did over the Ironman distance. Oh, that's true, actually. I don't think I've finished off the podium. And then I wanted to race more. It's expensive racing as an age grouper. The entry fees are $1,000 or something, $800, $1,000. Work, travel, all that stuff. It's not cheap. And for me, the times that I was dropping gave me auto qualification for a pro license. And I thought, well, this is a cheaper way of racing. And again, I don't want this to sound wrong, but I wanted to go faster. And don't get me wrong, the age group guys I was racing had me on my toes all the time, but I was getting results, and I knew the result was going to come somewhat. And I just thought, I just want to stand on the start line and race the fastest guys in the world. I just want to be in there doing it. And, you know, I've started racing pro, and, you know, Lionel's not known for his swimming or anything, but, you know, I was swimming in Arizona next to Lionel. You know, he was going out of transition, and I wasn't going to try chase him on the bike, but I'm, you know, getting into it with my idols, the guys I just, you know, it blows my hair back to this day, and it just makes me want to race more and more. And to be in that mix is amazing. And in my so-called pro career, I haven't finished outside of the top 10. And for me, I'm just like, wow, that's cool. You know, I'm such a fan of the sport, and I can take my ego out of it, but I'm like, it's cool, and it pumps me up.
It's very cool. And, you know, to put a little summary around your triathlon career to date, what's the greatest achievement you would say for you as a professional, as a triathlete racing professionally?
As a professional, I don't know. In all honesty, it's not about the time or the number next to my name. It's about the training leading up to it. If I hit a really good training block, I'm really happy. As a professional, my training hasn't been what I would in any means like it to be. I'm proud of the race I had in Arizona, possibly, just because I was going through a lot in my personal life at the time, and I was really in a tough situation, you know, and I made it work. I got injured just before the race, probably the fittest I'd ever been. You know, my power was the highest on the bike, my swim was really good. I was running way faster than I'd ever run, and the efficiency was there. I was just like, wow, I think I'm really in with a good shot at this race, you know. And there were some big names lining up there, and I thought that I could have stuck it to them, and then I got injured. And then, you know, a couple of guys said don't even race, but I went there. And I just wanted, even if I have to swim bike, I'll do that. Got off the bike with, you know, weeks of not running, and had a pretty decent run in hot conditions, and I was just proud of persistence. My time was like 8:40 or something like that, which isn't anything to write home about. But
your place in overall was
8th, I think. You know, and you know, some big names there, and some guys I ran past were, you know, some pretty solid guys that again I look up to. But it was just. I know, for me it was it sounds corny, but what Ironman's about, you know, it's persistence, sticking it out when things aren't going your way. And Ironman, you know, it's a cool thing that, yeah, I don't know.
And I've heard you say, Clint, you're doing triathlon because you love the experiment.
Exactly, yeah. For me, it's a personal experiment. I don't care what numbers come next to my name. Obviously, you want to do well, because those numbers are a representation of physical effort and performance. But I don't know, I want to see how I can tweak my diet. I want to see how I can change my position. I've never had a bike fit. I've done all my own bike fitting. Someone's probably sitting out there going, well, you're an idiot. I could save you 10 minutes, but I don't really care about those 10 minutes. I want to figure it out myself, and that's what I love about the sport. You know, I want to ride by myself in the wind. I want to go search for headwinds. I want to, you know, tweak my equipment. I want to write my own training programs and figure it out, because it's cool. Like, I'm such a fan of the sport that if I can learn and use myself as a lab rat, it's unbelievable. It's cool, and that's something that blows my hair back.
That's cool. Ready to go fast? Performance round. Here we go. Some rapid fire questions. Training session you most dislike?
Swimming in general.
Training session you most love.
Time trial efforts.
Favourite pre-race meal.
Snickers.
Bedtime, morning time.
Bedtime right now, 6 p.m. I wake up at 2:30.
We're right. We're almost intruding on that.
Yeah.
Who's the athlete Clint Kimmins most admires and why?
Luke McKenzie, Aussie, beast on the bike, cool dude, does other sports, humble, isn't a tri geek, so to speak. Yeah, Luke's my favourite.
Toughest competitor you've ever raced?
Toughest
And
competitor?
why?
Oh, I don't know. Yarn, we battle it out. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know, man. I couldn't answer it.
Is there a mantra that you use when you race? Some regular self-talk?
Harden the F up, maybe? I'm not sure.
Best recovery tip?
Best recovery tip, hydration. If you're dehydrated, you're wasting your time. So just adequate hydration first and foremost. And don't sit down after a session. Lay down, get on your back, stretch out. Don't sit down and lock everything up because that will bring on injuries.
One word to describe your racing style.
Oh, one word. I know this is meant to be quick. Sorry, my racing style. Don't know, it would be go hard early. I don't know, it's not one word, but it's a hard one.
How would Clint Kimmins describe being in the zone?
Deep, weird thoughts.
What sort of weird thoughts?
Just, I don't know, but when I'm training doing a hard session, I'll picture myself like hiking in a jungle, or like if I'm swimming through clouds, or just really weird kind of things like that. Just deep thoughts.
When was the last time you were in that zone?
This morning.
On the bike?
No, not on the bike, just getting out of bed. Trying to motivate myself to get up at 2:30.
Going through a deep forest.
Yeah.
What's the hardest session Clint Kimmins has ever done?
Probably something along the lines of 6 hours on the bike or maybe 240k with an 80k time trial, crushing a big year, a 60k time trial, lessening the gearing so it's less of a strength effort, and then a 40k time trial at race cadence, and then a 20k time trial at like 110 cadence or something like that, and then a run off the bike. Just completely bizarre over cadence, spinning, heart rate everywhere, just completely throwing it all at you. And then, probably like 6 1-milers off the bike, above race pace or something like that.
Clint, you talk about the highs, the lows, the learnings on this show. Of everything you've learned, and your life has kind of so far, I guess, mirrored that. The highs, the lows, and now you're learning. You're the student of the sport of triathlon.
Doing it backwards, aren't I?
You are.
I had to learn that as a young
But then
kid.
the highs, it's got to be a cycle, right? So what would you say for listeners listening in who are out there trying to perform at their physical best? What's the one piece of advice that you would issue? If you could only issue one thing, what would it be?
Don't compare yourself to others. Go along at your pace. You'll get there. Learn, and don't look at the guy next to you in the bunch ride. Don't try and hold someone's feet. Just focus more on yourself. Figure out your breathing, your running cadence, your style, your bike position. Be selfish. Focus on you.
It's powerful. Clint, fun question, personality question, get to know the personality that lives inside the guest. If you could have dinner with 3 people, living or past, who's at Clint Kimmins' dinner table and why?
Someone who's a comedian, possibly Eddie Murphy, just to ruffle some feathers and make people laugh. And then probably someone like a Bill Clinton or a president of the United States, someone who's been in extreme power, and possibly someone who's homeless. And the fun person, when there's bickering and arguing starts coming out, they can make light of it. The homeless person to give perspective to someone who's been filled to be fed by a silver spoon their whole life. So hopefully we can learn something between mixing those 2 people, and then also get some laughs along the way.
That is a fascinating table. It's one of the most insightful answers I've had.
Deep. I told you I'm deep, mate. I get deep.
Clint, every guest of the Physical Performance Show can issue listeners with a physical challenge for the week. Now, this can be entry level or it can be extremely difficult. What's Clint Kimmins' physical challenge to listeners for the week going to be?
I don't know if this is physical or not. When you set your alarm, the second it goes off, switch it off and get up. That's tough. That's a really tough thing to do. Don't hit snooze. Don't even have a snooze. Don't have 5 minutes. Because in my eyes, you're failing before your feet have even hit the ground. If you hit snooze, you've failed somewhat. If you hit 10 minutes later, you've failed. Hit stop and put your feet on the floor and go about your day. See what happens.
I'm feeling very convicted.
I'll check in with you and see how you go.
Is that what you've been doing for some time now?
I've been trying. You didn't say if I do it. That's what I'm trying to do. Yeah, but I do. As soon as my alarm goes off, rip in. It's just do it. You set that alarm for a reason. You set it in the first place to get up at that time. So get up.
What's giving you this revelation?
Time management. See,
trying to do
we've
it all.
gone full circle
Trying
here.
to do it all.
Time management.
Trying to do it all.
There's not enough hours in the day.
Clint, for those who are interested, and I'd say that's anyone listening, to follow your journey onwards to the World Ironman Triathlon Championships and the big Wave World Tour, where can listeners find out more about your journey and follow the?
Just all the social media, mate. I'm on Twitter, Facebook. I'm not on a whole lot. I try and keep that private with friends. Instagram's obviously the huge one. Just at Clint Kimmins, ClintKimmins.
Clint, this has been worth waiting for. Thanks for stopping by today and sharing.
Unreal, mate. Thanks so much for having me on. And I'm a fan of your work and everything you do. And I really appreciate you letting me have a chance to speak.
Awesome, mate.
Cheers.
So there you have it. Another episode of the Physical Performance Show, and I trust you enjoyed Clint Kimmins. That was an absolute thrill to record, and I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did in the production. If you did, then please let myself and Clint know what it was that you took from his very candid share-ins. You can find Clint over on social media at Clint Kimmins, ClintKimmins over on Instagram, and myself at Brad_beer over on Twitter and Instagram. If you know someone who you believe would enjoy today's episode and take a lot from Clint's share-ins, and please share the episode with them. That would be fantastic. Big thanks to the good folk who have been leaving ratings and reviews over on iTunes, helping the Physical Performance Show get into the earbuds of more people who, just like yourself, are pursuing their own physical best. Big thanks this week to reviewer of the show, Go To Girl. Go To Girl rated the Physical Performance Show 5 stars over on iTunes and commented, "I've only listened to a few episodes so far, but I get something valuable out of each and every one. Great work. Please keep the content coming. It's truly appreciated." Well, thank you, Go To Girl. Thank you for your review. That is truly appreciated. And if you'd like to do so, jump over to iTunes and review or rate away. That would be absolutely awesome. Big thanks also to the good folk who make the Physical Performance Show possible each week. Daryl Misson, our audio engineer guru, Matthew Walding, all things graphic design, and Susan Wilkin, adminaholics on all things show administration. Of course, another huge thank you to today's show sponsor, PhysioCrem. PhysioCrem is Pogo Physio's treatment cream of choice. And if you haven't yet experienced PhysioCrem, then remember you can jump over to physiocrem.com.au and use the promo code POGO to receive 20% off all PhysioCrem products. You can also go into the draw to win an awesome PhysioCrem package, including PhysioCrem shirts, hats, and a massive tube of PhysioCrem. And that's available for entry between episode 121 and 125 inclusive. All you need to do is jump over to the following URL and enter your details to have a chance to win. physiocrem.com.au/physical-performance-giveaway/. All right, coming up on next week's episode of the Physical Performance Show, I bring you an inspirational chat I had with young Australian Paralympian runner Jared Clifford. Jared Clifford recently claimed his own piece of history in sports by becoming the first Australian Paralympian to compete in the IAAF World Junior Athletics Championships in the 1500 metre men's event. It's an outstanding insight into truly what's possible and also into perspective that we all need and benefit from. You're going to really enjoy Jared Clifford on next week's episode of the Physical Performance Show, so be sure to be tuning in. Until then, keep pursuing your own physical best performance. I'm Brad Beer, and this has been the Physical Performance Show.